morning, everybody. It's Thursday morning, Las Vegas. You've all got your coffees in? I hope you're going to have the coffees in because we're going to have a very interactive session. This is not going to be a presentation on context, on windows, on agents, on how to build them and how to process them faster. This is going to be a session around how do you manage building agents, managing the agents and scaling them full time. So it's going to be a full interactive session. I'm going to be asking many questions from the audience through the session. So no phones, please. Mike, welcome to, I think I forgot my clicker, but I don't think I got my clicker, so I apologize.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you. So Mike, we're going to start with the audience question first.
How about it?
Prompted that. So quick question. Raise your hands for how many of you are experimenting with agents or are running them in production? That's close to 80% of the room, so you can keep your hands down. Now, raise your hands if you have visibility of the agents you're producing or having them run, full visibility. So
I like the response.
that's about 2% of the people. This is the whole session. We're going to talk about how do you get visibility of your agents. We're going to talk about the discussions around how do you manage them, how do you look at identity, how do you secure them, how do you observe them and scale, and that's the whole session. So we'll start with Mike straight off. Mike, Home Depot, Magic Apron, and those of you who attended the keynote yesterday, the Home Depot Magic Apron
It's pretty cool.
Was pretty cool. So tell us a little more about the internal workings of Magic Apron and what it does.
Yeah, so Magic Apron is our agentic AI platform for both customers as well as our associates. It is really cool, and it makes our shopping experience much more seamless and frictionless. And in retail, that's we like to talk about things being frictionless. But I got to tell you, it's pretty awesome because the irony is not lost on me that I work for Home Depot, but I am the least handy person in the world. And the fact that there's something that I can identify with and relate to give me all of the information that I need when I need to do a project or even just pick up any product in the store.
So Mike, last year, we're here 2 years in a row now. This is the third year.
Yeah, this is the hat trick year.
We started our sessions, Mike and I, those of you who didn't attend our sessions, Mike and I started talking about, this is when AI just started and the ChatGPT moment came and we started introducing and talking about the concepts of AI being part of an enterprise. Last year, we talked about predicting and we were bold predictors. 10 million agents are going to be deployed. And Magic Apron had just kind of a beta type of conversation at that time.
Yeah, just introduced it. It was, hey, this is coming, and now it's fully functional and better than I could have even imagined.
So there was a stage when it moved from demo introduction to it being real. Tell us the internal workings of what happened when that transition happened.
Well, I'll tell you, I got to say, one of the things that's astonishing to me is just the sheer speed in which things develop and progress. It used to be the technology lifecycle. You'd have something, and then a year later there'd be like a next iteration. But it feels like every 4 to 6 weeks there's like a leap ahead of things. So now with Magic Apron, and not to mention just all of AI that we leverage across our enterprise. Our CEO came down and said, hey, we're not going to lose because we fell behind, get moving. And it got real very fast. The enablement of AI technologies and the tools that we gave to our workers in our store support center really kind of it was a oh crap moment, sorry to be crude about it, but it was just like, wait a second, we're doing what? And there it was. And we had to adapt very quickly for it.
There was any cool story for user? I know if you all looked at the video yesterday, you saw about 10% productivity increase that you're seeing people interact from home or use it as a way to look at products and understand information. So video is just brilliant. Was there any cool story internally that you said, wow, this is what the user used it for, and here is how he interacted with the Magic Apron?
Well, absolutely. There's all kinds of individual use cases, but I think what's really astonishing to me is Home Depot. We kind of are looked at as, oh, you're this brick and mortar. We go pick things up, but it's turned the organization. And you think about the life cycle. People being a customer of Home Depot starts long before they get in the store. It starts with, usually in my house, it's my wife going, "Hey, I'm gonna change this," and I was like, "Okay," But really, it's something as simple as, "Hey, you know what? I want to replace that fan in that room," and it starts on their phone. And now there's so many different ways to interact with the buying experience for Home Depot. You can do all your research in Magic Apron, purchase it online, pick it up in the store. You can have it delivered to your house. All of the above. So I think really what kind of astonishes me is that concept of the life cycle of the purchasing experience is just so far more expansive than you walk in the store and somebody says, "Hey, how can we help you today?"
And as people started building the Magic Apron internally, I'm quite sure the business would have started reinventing new agents they would like to have and things of that kind. So how do you manage that in Home Depot? What do you do in terms of governance? How do you think about the opportunity?
Yeah, so we really look at agents and AI as a whole kind of at three levels. There's the individual user piece of it where you've got, say, a Copilot or Gemini helping everybody just do their day-to-day tasks. Hey, tell me what my priorities are today. Hey, help me draft a document to do this. Then there's kind of the intermediary level where teams are leveraging agents to make their work go that much faster and be that much more efficient. And then you have the enterprise level type agents where our customers are using it as well as our associates are using it. And each one of those kind of tiers have a unique things to be worried about and that you need to defend against. So we try setting up as much governance as possible around what our paved paths are, what's sanctioned versus unsanctioned, because everybody wants to use AI. Every associate in the store is tinkering with it. I'm sure all of you and all of your family members are playing around with an AI of some sort, and we should be. But it's a proliferation that I don't know I could have even guessed last year when we chatted about it.
We just predicted 8 or 9 million agents at that time, and we thought we were ahead of the market. So if you think about a typical agent lifecycle, Mike, and especially the worlds we came from, and we're showing a little bit of our age by saying this. A couple of years back, we would think about a new application to be built, and this was great. We would plan it, we would think about what it's solving, what authorization it's allowed, what privileges you're allowed to have, and then you would then go out and roll that application, and if you're very good at it, you would do it in 3 months or 2 months or 5 months, or sometimes 18 months, depending on which organization you're looking at. Today's world, an agent world, you think of an application, you build it, you give access to data, and by the way, that agent spawns off another agent, which then starts accessing some of the data that you've given to the first agent as a privilege. And then that agent morphs itself because that agent is supposed to drive an outcome, and it redevelops its own code, and now you create a dynamic environment. Big issue is how do you manage what data somebody gets? How do you ensure what type of identity is maintained? How do you look at that life cycle?
You really hit on probably one of the most poignant things is AI has reduced the barrier to entry for everything. I was discussing with a colleague the other day. I had never programmed in Python or scripted in Python. Yeah, I know how to program in C++ and lots of other things, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna tinker around with this because we have Visual Studio, and it's got Copilot built into it. And so I asked it to help me build a news aggregator, and it coded the entire thing for me. Now, I was able to use my coding knowledge to go, okay, well, that's not quite right. Hey, we want to do this. But I literally had never cracked a book and looked at the syntax of Python, and here I am, I have a full web app that is now developed that I'm embarrassed to say I did it in like 20 or 30 minutes, right? So now you have people who aren't programmers of any kind. They can just go in and have a discussion with the AI. It's pretty crazy. But you used a word in there that I think is probably the most foot stomp moment that I think we need to realize, and we were discussing it in the last session I was in. Agents aren't code. They're not software, right? You have to think of them as a non-human employee for your environment. So the identity and access management piece of it becomes that much more critical, because if you don't know what the agent's doing and you don't treat it as a non-human employee of some sort, you run into everything you're talking about. Entitlements, it's inheriting the entitlements of the person who created it. Well, then you share the agent. Okay, well now it's using the entitlements that other person had, and I joke around. It's like, okay, if I create an agent, okay, it's going to have my privileges. Well, what happens if I share that with our chief architect? Well, now it has all the entitlements. How do we control that? Like that proliferation, and I won't say, ignorance of that it's going to exist, but the unintended consequence of, well, hey, now you have this entity, non-human or not, that can do those things. So me being going back to my traditional security mindset of thinking about like, okay, well, what's doomsday? Well, you think about identity and access management, you're always worried about orphaned identities. Well, now what's going to happen when you have orphaned agents in your environment? So, sleep well, guys, thanks.
So that's probably the most scary part, that Mike, you can code, or the agents having no identity or no manager.
Well, I'll go with the identity piece, but it's a close second is that people who have no concept of coding and consequences of what they're building, being able to build something just by having a discussion, there's no best practices that are being invoked in that point, so it's a close second.
Cool. All right, so we'll go through a rapid fire set of questions so that we can get the audience also involved very soon. AI agents today are? One word, Mike.
I'm actually gonna change it. It is exciting, right? They are definitely exciting.
What's the biggest risk?
Shadow AI has got to be it, because people are using it whether you think they are or not. All you have to do is look at your network traffic and do some analysis. It's there.
What breaks first? Security, token, cost, observability?
At scale, I'd say observability. You deal with an organization of Home Depot, just under 500,000 employees. Like, keeping observability of everything going on is a challenge.
One thing every company here should be doing in the next 90 days, best experience that you would provide.
I would say lean into it, right? As security practitioners, you can't resist this. It's going to happen. So control your destiny and partner with your business to enable them, but to enable them in the most secure fashion that you can.
Build fast versus secure first, and mind you, you're the CISO. You're in the CISO group when I'm going to ask you this question.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with build fast. And I know that's counterintuitive for a security person, but building fast, but building with the guidelines. In order for your tech folks to build fast, having those guardrails and some sort of governance that they can follow, that actually makes them go faster as well. So I'm sneaking security in to build fast. How about that?
Always hedging. That's always the right answer. So key takeaways: think about shadow AI as you're managing and building agents. Think about identity. Create a framework on how you build agents. Let the business innovate and drive it away for success. Mike, we'll see you next year again.
Yes, sir. Let's do 4.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. So challenge is not about building agents. Yes, you can have big context windows, and yes, you've got technologies and capabilities and companies that can help you to go there, but it's thinking about how you have a framework, how you have a lifecycle approach to security, how do you think about identity, how do you think about then managing the agent and agent security. So for the next session, I want to invite 2 colleagues, Josh and Rob, on the stage. Josh. So last Tuesday, I was going to make this a 5-7 minute presentation, and I decided Tuesday morning, I said, I'm not going to make it a presentation. I'm going to develop a video. So I sent an email to marketing department. I hope my marketing department is not here. And what did marketing department do? It was going to take us 2 weeks to develop this video. We'll get a beta. We have to go through branding approval. We have to do that. This is about 11:30 in the morning. Got a team member, a couple of team members on a call together. And at about 3:30, we had a script ready. And we had an intern who had never used a video editing software, develop the software, and develop a full 3-minute video in 4 hours. Wednesday morning, I sent a video. That's the power of AI. And this, I'm not sure whether the future of philosophy is good or not. This intern was actually going to a philosophy class. So he was building a video while he was in the philosophy class. And that's probably why it took 4 hours for him to build it. But it's just amazing. So if we just roll the video and look at what 4 hours of work can mean in terms of communicating a message.
Every business is heading toward the same destination, AI Planet. It's a crossing defined by economic pressure, regulatory scrutiny, and technological risk. Planet National Bank has deployed an autonomous agent, MoneyMind, redefining customer engagement, driving a 2.8x increase in loan pre-qualifications. This wasn't automation. This was a new workforce. Underneath this transformation lies a new technology foundation, a data lakehouse on existing databases that are across different systems like Google BigQuery, domain-trained AI models, from Vertex or Hugging Face fine-tuned for banking risk and compliance. Agentic architecture, using the MCP connects to internal and external systems like core banking, CRM systems, and real-time market data. This isn't just automation anymore. It's a living, adaptive system. Agents outnumber humans 47-1. And attackers are evolving just as fast. AI attacks rewrite themselves in seconds. Hidden prompts manipulate agent decisions. Trusted tools silently turn into attack paths. Agent permissions expose sensitive internal data. Malicious inputs trigger costly AI processing loops. Do the models you are planning to use, do they have a complete vulnerability assessment? With Palo Alto Networks Strata Cloud Manager, you can scan vulnerabilities in your models. Look at shadow AI deployments. Every AI agent operates with zero standing privilege. With Palo Alto Networks Agent Identity System, access is granted in real time. Prisma Airs defends against prompt injection and data leakage, monitors your model behavior and simulate attacks. With agent security, agents interact with trusted tools and MCP connections. This is not reactive security, it's continuous enforcement across the AI lifecycle. There's another challenge: visibility. AI agents don't fail, they drift, they hallucinate, and inferencing cost spikes. PNB deployed observability with Chronosphere. Chronosphere became the bank's radar system, guiding every decision in real time. In the meantime, threat alerts are sent to Palo Alto Networks' Autonomous Security Operations Center, Cortex platform, which aggregates all the security threats across PNB. For example, when a prompt injection attack targeted MoneyMind with a 5-minute data exfiltration, Cortex detected and contained these threats in under a minute. Where every second counts, Palo Alto Networks' Autonomous Security Operations Center gives CISOs total command over threat detection and response. Palo Alto Networks protects AI with AI. To begin your journey, 1. Discover your AI environment. 2. Secure the AI agent lifecycle, including agent endpoint, identity, and runtime protection. 3. Scale with confidence using an autonomous SOC and observability platform. Together, Google and Palo Alto Networks have helped many companies like Planet National Bank fly towards a secure AI future.
I think it's pretty cool to have an intern 22-year-old develop a video which is a 3-minute video that explains the story in as succinct a manner. So on Thursday morning, we had a team conversation. Of course, we learned a few things that you should use videos that can generate 8K experience for a large screen, that aside. But what we learned is that we could communicate things so much faster, we could actually start building faster, and this is just a sample of what people can do. So we're going to straight jump into managing a life cycle of agents and how do you build and scale them. So Josh, we'll kick it off with you because Google is building the best infrastructure, it's building the best technology to enable enterprises to adopt agents. So let's start from you. What do you think about it?
Well, I think, hearing great things from Mike out here, for sure, right? Real world experience of what he's seen from this evolution of going from, what do you start from initial POC to moving into production? And I think the key lessons that we're learning with customers is that security can't be done in silos, right? So it takes really a shared responsibility model for us to take a look at how to deliver this. And the first is Google builds in protections in the model, right? We want to make sure that we've got filters and guardrails to make sure that the model is behaving the way it should. The second thing is from a platform perspective. Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform has to have...
You got it right.
Thank you. The right protections. For those of you that didn't know, naming changed yesterday. Vertex AI is no more. So, and then in the security layer, we work with partners like Palo Alto Networks to make sure that we've got specialized runtime protection and deep observability so that you can control that environment. Excellent.
So, Josh, while you were speaking, there are a lot of people who send me messages, and I could just hear them in my brain. So I'm going to go completely off script on this because they send the message. This audience sent this message. What do you think about the Anthropic Mythos announcement? How does it fit into your lifecycle thinking?
Yeah, well, I think the main thing is that it opens up the opportunity for us to dig deeper into a holistic view of what's happening out there from software vulnerabilities, the way that we're securing our environments. And I think, starting from where we know the right model defense in depth works in the enterprise, we need to still think about that. But this opens up the window to how well are we actually protecting our environment.
Totally agree. And as from Palo Alto's perspective, the way we think about security lifecycle, how we think about platforms and managing platforms, Mythos, all it's done, or other models that, by the way, do a lot of good vulnerability scanning existed even before Mythos. Approach of lifecycle security and how it embeds is the right way to think about it from our standpoint. So let's go deeper into prompt injection and indirect prompt injection, the scary stories that you hear about productivity applications, which we cannot name in this room. There are other GitHub repositories that people are using to break through prompt injection. How do you think about prompt injection from Google?
I think the first thing is, you can't do security in silos. It's got to be part of the entire life cycle. And so, you have to really think about what are the guardrails that you're putting in place, what are the tools that you're using to make sure that you're protecting at the point of action. And, this reminds me of kind of what you don't know or can't see initially. So one of the email providers that's out there, they're fairly large in the enterprise space. They have this thing called Copilot. There was a recent breach that occurred where a user was summarizing their emails, and there was ASCII text that was embedded inside one of the emails that actually provided a prompt injection that wasn't seen by the user, but it caused the Copilot to go ahead and activate. I'm going to summarize the email, then I'm going to gather all of your multi-factor authentication notifications and your bank records and send them out to this external URL. And it's those type of things where the user didn't do anything wrong. They didn't click on a bad link. They didn't follow a phishing attempt. But by using summarization from Copilot, it created this breach. So we really have to think about what are the unintended consequences.
Thank you. So I'm going to switch and move to visibility and observability. That's what Mike talked about at scale. That's one of the biggest problems. Rob, welcome to Palo Alto Networks. We value what you do, and we're excited to have you as part of the organization, especially in the agentic era. So tell us a little bit about observability and how does it play in agent lifecycle? We know how it plays in an enterprise. It's an old industry. Let's talk a little bit about agent lifecycle.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's great to be part of the team. I think it's an interesting era, especially as Mike kind of alluded to. The authoring of the software has become so much more straightforward these days, but every other aspect of it is heightened in terms of the attention, the delicacy, and where that's at. As a technologist, that's really exciting, right? Because we get to do a lot of our most interesting work sometimes in those areas. It's not just the authoring of code. And so, when Mike mentioned that observability is one of the ones to break first at scale, that is because it's one of the things that is the guardrails that you put in place to move from being able to just build agents, for instance, to releasing them with confidence and operating them safely at scale in production. If your agent gets ahead of those guardrails, gets ahead of that visibility that you have, that's a very dangerous place to be in, because you have no idea what's happening, and you can be in a place where it can take down your entire infrastructure, depending on what it does and how quickly it does that, which we've learned AI can do things very, very quickly. And so we work with a large LLM provider on several agentic use cases they brought to production. And the most important takeaway across these use cases was that they have the high granularity instrumentation they need, so when they're in production, they have that visibility into what's happening without overflowing the volume that's hitting their observability backend, because that happens very frequently. It's very easy to blow up these data pipelines, right? We're talking about extracting data from machines that work at much faster than at the speed of any humans, and it's at massive scale, and it's very easy to blow up an observability data pipeline. And so it's this constant balance between getting the granularity you need without kind of breaking your infrastructure that's allowing you to move at this pace, allowing you to do these things, and safely release software. And so you need to be able to see outliers like latency, token consumption, unpredictable behavior, failure rates, and this is the kind of thing that allows teams to move from it seems to work to measurable and governable agent behavior in production.
So managing and scaling agent lifecycle velocity without visibility is risk. You're driving a Formula One car, there's an agent for you. You want to have visibility, otherwise you're going to have a problem. So got it. What are the first set of signals when you think about agent lifecycle as you're scaling? What's unmanageable, manageable? What comes out the most important?
Yeah, so I think about this from start with the basic and the fundamentals, and make sure that much like you set SLOs for your microservices, you have these these major golden signals that you need to keep an eye on. That's things like the evaluation error rate, time to first token, and stream latency, tool chain success rate, intervention rate. Hopefully you do have some level of intervention and oversight, and you need to be monitoring that. And of course, detecting unexpected behavioral problems, because that's when you're starting to drift from the intentions of what you've released the agent to do.
Cool. So you've got observability. We talked a little bit about prompt injection, runtime, attack, shadow AI. Let's move to identity. I know there's documented conversations around identity, 45 agents to one person. That's where it's scaling to. But the forecasts and predictions are all saying it's close to 140 to 150 agents to one person. And imagine having 150 employees, even though they're non-human. How do you manage the identity? So how does Google think about this as you're looking at a lot of companies building agents at scale?
I think the first thing is realizing that we are in a position now where we have a non-human identity explosion that's occurring, right? We hear about these ratios, and we're seeing, in real life, our customers adopting agentic workflows. So traditional IAM systems just can't keep up with the pace of machine-to-machine communication, right? You have agents that are talking to MCP servers via APIs. For toolchain, you have agents talking to other agents via A2A. And so you get in this situation to where you need something that actually can manage those identities at machine speed. And so I think that's kind of the wake-up moment. And we see our customers identifying in their environments that as you get this agent-to-agent chaining, you can have unintended permissions that end up becoming available for the agent that started the workflow. And so that's something else that you have to really take a look at. How do you govern that effectively and make sure that you are managing the intent and inspecting at the point of action? And so that's where we work with partners like Palo Alto Networks to make sure that we have tools that can intersect those conversations and make sure that the information that agent's getting is actually something it should have access to.
So you look at an agent identity, you allocate an identity, then you have some form of visibility around what it's allowed to access, how long it's allowed to access, and have a policy-based governance. So you start thinking about ensuring the agents, as you're managing them, they're doing the right thing for the right reasons.
And not at the point of authentication, but at the point of action.
Absolutely. So let's now have a participative conversation. How many of you can confidently say what your agents are accessing, even though it's an experiment stage, and what data you've given? You really know, have you given them data that has privacy information? And by the way, this is not going to be recorded in your employee records, so you can say what you have to say. But raise of hands, those who feel you have clear understanding of agents and what they do and what access they have, and those who don't. So those who do, raise of hands. That's about right, 3%. And those who don't, I guess, is the flip side, or it's Vegas and we don't want to participate. Either of the ways. But I guess that's 2-3%. And that's really what we are seeing across organizations. People are building fast, but you got to think about that whole security lifecycle. So I'm going to move to, we talked about agents, we talked about 144 agents. How do these 144 agents, there are really distinct capabilities. You're going to have multi-tiered agents. So how do you think about, from a Google standpoint, this multi-tiering of agents and one agent talking to another agent and then dynamically changing code? How does that work?
Well, I think the first thing is, from an orchestration perspective, you think of that as the engine, right? It enables these swarms of agents to go and act autonomously on your behalf, which is fantastic. But then you also need the control aspect, which becomes an integrated component of the lifecycle. And you need to make sure that you've got an execution firewall in effect, right, that can understand and govern in real time what's happening between those agent conversations. So thinking about embedding security into your entire lifecycle and leveraging the tools that are available, such as Palo Alto's Prisma AIRS technology and now Chronosphere from observability, right? Really, you have to create a positive feedback loop of what you see when it comes to drift, which Rob mentioned earlier, so that you don't have unintended behavior, you don't introduce latency, and you don't have error rates that start to climb because you've got new data sets that the agents are working with.
Thank you. And by the way, I guarantee you I'd never send Josh any check to say Prisma AIRS and observability. It's just the close partnership Google has and the experience we have with our customers as we build agents and deploy them. We have so much of integration that it becomes natural conversations when we go and we talk about Gemini Enterprise and how 20,000 users of Gemini Enterprise and Palo Alto Networks, how we are helping to secure ourselves and how we are working together to secure our customers. So I'm going to bring back visibility into multi-agent. So we talked about one agent, you talked about multi-threads, you talked about latency. That's great in one area. What happens in multi-agent?
Yeah, so with multi-agent, again, like the level of potential unexpected behavior only increases. The level of policies that are in use and the interactions between them only increase. And so getting to that point where you have high enough granularity to say, okay, this is a new flow I'm seeing from the agent that I'm not expecting, is difficult. You have to start to almost look at things like VPC flow logs or something like that if you're at that level of paranoia. So anyway, what we've noticed is it's all about the data. So Chronosphere compresses telemetry volume across our data on average across our customers by roughly 84%. So anywhere between 75 to 90% is kind of what folks achieve there. And the reason that's very important is that gives you the ability to say, I'm going to turn on these 5 or 10 more metrics or tracing sets of data so that when you're trying to figure out what's happening, when you're trying to detect on unexpected behavior, you have that data in your back pocket. And you also have the agentic AI SRE capabilities and our differential diagnosis features, which we call DDX, to allow even the most green team members to effectively make sense of this high granularity data. Like a whole bucket of data doesn't really make sense if you can't understand it, you can't quickly dissect it and look at what's changed. So that's a big thing with multi-agent and the importance for having like that level of control over your telemetry and visibility. Interesting.
So in an agent lifecycle, if you have a traditional observability capability, you're going to be collecting data, you're going to be collecting, you said 84%, so close to 5 times the amount of data,
exactly.
Which means it's a lot more data, more difficult to get visibility. Of course, costs go up, efficiency of how you manage and operate changes.
Correct.
But with the capability, Chronosphere is really built into its technology using DDX. That's one more acronym I'll have to learn. But using those capabilities, you can really shrink that data, compress it, give the same outcome at 84% less data, which means more efficiency and better cost.
Correct.
And improve visibility.
Yeah, you don't need per process or per thread data, you need per agent data. And that's the kind of controls that make it so easy to control that like extra multiplier on your data. So yeah, it provides that level of visibility you need.
Excellent. So I want to really jump in now into an example of where all of us who've been in many sessions have heard about security. They've heard about every organization with the right observability ensuring there's security there. So one of the questions some of the CISOs have asked us and the CIOs have asked us is, what does Palo Alto do? What does Google do? Last evening we had a meeting with a few folks in one of the rooms, and they were saying that, hey, we do security, you do security, so tell us the difference. And we were thinking through the analogy of how to explain this and how we participate and how the technologists have really thought about that integration. And really the whole airport travel experience starts kind of creating that analogy for saying, yeah, that makes sense. That totally, we understand that. So if you think about companies like Google and NVIDIA, they build the best platforms. And they build the runways, they build the infrastructure, they build the best planes. They ensure it's very secure. They ensure, when they talk about security, they talk about robust infrastructure and security around that infrastructure. But if the wrong passenger goes into the wrong plane with the wrong luggage, that can create a lot of problems. And that's where Palo Alto, we are the TSA security of and luggage routing system of an airport that allows an enterprise when they're implementing agents, ensuring you have visibility, who's going where, how it's being interconnected, and that's where we're looking at having Palo Alto play a role, and that's where the integrations with Google start making sense for enterprises. Then, of course, there's an enterprise role, the role of the CISO, where does that go? CIO, that's the enterprise governance or the control tower of an aircraft to know which plane flies out at what time and where, and provide the lifecycle management. And of course, there's a role for every user as to making sure they're responsible. They're making sure they're getting the right privileged identity, making sure they have the right time of how the identity is used, not just accessing applications, what type of applications you access. So when you start bringing that together, that creates a secure travel experience, and that's the real security lifecycle that we think we're bringing together to the market.
I think we have to remember now, those users also include agents.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and 145 times. So we'll go through a quick rapid fire, and then we'll of course involve the audience here. And what's the biggest mistake enterprises are making with AI agents today?
Lifecycle, full lifecycle thinking. What does it take to onboard an agent and offboard an agent when it's no longer used? And what do you do in the middle to control it?
And you have to have speed with lifecycle, so I'll come back to that.
Yep, and yeah, we just see missing observability. And when folks are realizing they're in the middle of an incident and they need extra observability, that's what we frequently run into. We don't, we obviously want to see folks move past that and instrument much more liberally.
Let's go to the next one. One control.
I think security throughout the entire lifecycle.
That's many controls, but I'll give you that.
Yeah, and I would say, end-to-end observability from the kind of release into the operation and the scaling of it. A lot of folks focus on one piece while they're developing it, and they're not thinking about when it's in production and how they're going to watch it scale.
How about platform standardization? So you have one control through standardizing a platform, and you manage security to that. And if you have to have 100+ agents, and 100+ will sound very trivial and for many people already, and definitely for most companies by the time we come here next year. Identity, data control, observability, cost of scale.
Identity.
Obviously, observability. And then I think the cost as well. Yeah.
Excellent. So now this is one more question for the audience, and there's going to be a little bit involved question, so if you can work with me here. A year from now, you're back in this room. Will you think your AI agents will be an advantage or a risk you're still trying to understand? Those who think are an advantage, raise your hands.
Optimists.
It's about 50%, close to 50%, give and take. Risk, you're still trying to understand. Smaller percentage of people risk. The more technical aware people I can see are thinking about it as risk. So good. All right. So just bringing this home, AI agents, the big thing about AI agents, when we start thinking about them, we think about them as distinct, separate entities. But really, the true world of agents will come in when AI agents become part of your system. They blend into them. They become part of your application. You do not even realize you have an AI agent. Think about those of who you are old enough to know this, is you lived in a world where it was non-graphic user interface. It became part of your system. You cannot think of applications without G. That's the new world of agents. So if that's the case, AI agents are going to become part of your system. The security today you have is not failing. It's just not ready for it. That's as simple as that. It's not about saying these security capabilities are not important. It's not saying that they fail, but they don't exist today. And you have to rethink security. You're going to rethink security through a lifecycle and a platform-centric approach. You're going to think about identity, and then security of those agents, and then visibility of runtime, and where it's going, and whom is it talking to, what data governance you're running there, and then what visibility you have on how it's performing, because you want to make sure the green agents continue to remain green and give you the outcome with the investments you're making. So you're going to start thinking about it as a lifecycle approach to security and a platform-centric approach to security, where you can detect and respond to threats in real time. And that's really how we start thinking about this whole thing coming together. And if the system is running fine without observability, you don't see a failure. So the biggest takeaway for us is think about agents as part of your systems and not a new capability. Think about a platform-centric approach and start building around with speed and scale. Now, security prevents things from going wrong, and observability provides you prediction. That's another way to think about it. And the question is not whether you really deploy AI agents or not. I think it's going to become part of every application, whether we like it or not. That's how we're going to adapt. All the new applications you're going to build or updated applications will have agents built in them. The question is, can you understand them faster than they can understand you? So if there's one takeaway I would have around this whole session would be, think about having complete visibility, start with that, then think about a lifecycle approach. But really, there are lots of capabilities there. Palo Alto offers them, Google offers them. There are plenty of capabilities that provide you a visibility of your overall platform. Go out and get visibility of your enterprise, because when you start having visibility, you can start building and creating the lifecycle approach. And really, that's the most important thing. Any final takeaways from your side?
I think the one thing that's great is, for those of you that already have Palo Alto, they've been a tremendous partner for us because they're always going to where the puck is heading, right? They're staying ahead of where we see technology. They're a great partner because we've got more than 80 integrations that we worked on, and I'm not trying to push the product. I'm just saying from an integration standpoint, they've been a good partner because they're always thinking ahead.
Thank you. Rob?
Yeah, I would just say that it's a new world we're all building for, and I think going to the thought leaders and whether you do it yourself or you use their products, it's very important, and that's the best way to stay ahead.
Thank you very much. And I hope you have a great rest of the day, and we'll appreciate it. Josh, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Rob, thank you. Thank you very much.